Joseph, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you ever so much for having me, Tom. I've been a big admirer of your work for a long time. So I am very, very grateful for being here with you. It's going to be absolutely awesome. So thank you.
Definitely, definitely. And if you're listening right now, you haven't met Joseph yet. Joseph Clough is the best-selling author of Be Your Potential, published by Hay House. He's also the creator of over 200 hours of hypnosis and coaching MP3s and videos that are currently being downloaded over 3 million times each year. He's also an international speaker, a celebrity coach, and a hypnotherapist. Joseph, it's great to have you. So tell us a little bit about your background. Like, how did you get started, as an author, and also just kind of your career in business as well?
I mean, I think it's like how many other stories go when it comes to people starting to get into like hypnosis or coaching, because I actually had my own issues. So ever since I was a child, I just used to be so shy. I wouldn't even talk to my grandparents. I was that shy. And there was even one point in my life when a teacher made me stand up in front of everyone. And I was very shy, like I said. And she said, and I didn't know, sorry, it was a maths question. I didn't know the maths question. But the teacher said, look, Joseph, if you don't know this, you're not going to get anywhere. And that crushed me in that moment, which gave me like anxiety, self-consciousness, blushing. And it was like a really big event, which kind of made me drop out of college and go into an unhappy job. And then one day, my dad, who practiced hypnosis, said, look, Joseph, you've got to just get out your own way and go on this like hypnosis course. So I took the long journey there, and then on the way back, I decided this is what I want to be doing. I mean, I loved empowering people, and more importantly, I let go of my own issues. So now, having used to speak in just like 3 people and be crazy anxious, now I can speak in front of like 500, 1,000 and actually enjoy it. So I really fell into this by trying to understand the nature of my own issues. And once I began to invest in the research for trainings and all those things, it just kind of led me into this role right now of just like you doing like podcasts, YouTube videos and everything else. And the way I see it is on my stuff is just we all have the resources. We all have the abilities to achieve what we want. Where if you have a book right now in you have the ability to do that. I mean, you have the resources. And it's just a way. We've got to just make the mind shift to be able to make that happen.
Absolutely, for sure. That's so crucial. Like, is to the mind. Like the mind is like the one thing that like holds people back. And I think, most people in my own life, I've seen it time and time again, when I was stuck, when I couldn't move forward, when, like I tried to get my first book deal, it took me 6 years and could never get an agent or a publisher. I felt like I was just banging my head against the wall. And, the truth is I wasn't doing things the right way. I wasn't modeling successfully, but I didn't call up a bunch of authors on the phone who had book deals and ask them, hey, how did you do this? And how did you go about that? I was just, I had my own way of thinking that it would work, and it just didn't work. And I kept trying the same thing that didn't work over and over again. And I see so many people who are authors or entrepreneurs, they keep doing the same thing over and over again that doesn't work. So, from your standpoint, Joseph, you mentioned, overcoming, your social anxieties, right? Which is kind of, in essence, like having thoughts or having beliefs or ideas that don't work, right? So how do you get unstuck from, things in your life that aren't working?
Okay, so first I want to just kind of jump on to what you just said there as well, because I think that's going to be really important. I mean, we have to understand there are always strategies and examples of people having done what we wanted. Like you just said, there was people out there who've written books, got publishing deals, but you're going at first in your own way. So the number one thing is we have to model success. We have got to understand our own strategy, of course. I mean, we've got to understand the differentiation. Okay, this is what I'm presently doing. These are my present thoughts, feelings, and beliefs I have, and the behaviors that I'm doing right now. But also, who out there in the world is actually doing what I want to do? How can I model them? How can I find out their strategy? Because if they have the working strategy, we don't have to do much else. We don't have to figure it out. I mean, I know like you've got so many cool systems, right? Now, I could personally say if I didn't have my own book and all those things, I mean, obviously I could still crazy learn from you and everything. But if I didn't have my own book, then it's a no-brainer to go with you, okay? Because you have the strategic ways of getting it done. And if I just step by step apply what you're doing, then I'm going to be able to get to where I want to be. But I think sometimes we've got to get out of our own way. We've got to realize, okay, right now I'm presently experiencing X, Y, Z, and I know where I want to be. And the one big thing which I've realized in my life and everyone who I coach is we have to assume responsibility for our life. We've got to take control of it because no one else is. I know when I had my issues, and I'm sure with yourself as well, you had to be the instigator of that change. You can't rely on the economy. You can't rely on friends and families or other things, or even the people who have succeeded. You're the one person in your life right now who can do something differently. You do not have to be the person that you were yesterday, 5 minutes ago, 10 years ago, because in every moment we have an opportunity to do something about it. So for me, the biggest awakening for me was that actually, if I assume responsibility for my life, so rather being a product of what life happens to me, instead I can allow life to be a product of what I choose to create. And I think that places us in power. It means we can do whatever we want. I mean, if we're coming from a congruent angle, we can do whatever we want by assuming that responsibility and taking massive inspired action in life. Take responsibility, then find out who's doing what you want to do, and then just make that happen.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I think that's so crucial, is that you have to take control, like take responsibility. You have to focus on things in your life you can't control, because if you focus on everything you can't control, that's when you get stuck and you get upset and you get emotional and you're not making any progress and you're just wasting all your time and energy worrying and thinking about things instead of actually getting important stuff done.
Absolutely. I mean, if you think of what anxiety is, I mean, you said the two key words, worry and anxiety. I think many people go through that when they have a goal in their mind, or they want to be able to make a change in their life, whether it be health, relationship, career, finances, creating a book, being an entrepreneur. We have anxiety. Now, anxiety is something where we're focusing on everything which we don't want to happen. And it comes from way, way, way back when we had to be aware of anything which could happen. So against animals, tribes, and I mean really way back, we had to be aware of everything. We had to survive. So the reptilian brain was there to protect ourselves. But now what we're doing is, because I think like society and expectations on us is having an effect, that we're just spinning out of control, and we're doing it in such an overwhelming way. So like you said, rather like focusing on all the things you can't control or focus on all the worries and doubts, let's do the reverse anxiety process. So what would be the reverse? Rather expecting all the things which can go wrong, what if we start to train up our mind to focus on what can go right in this situation? So why me, which comes up with all the reasons, let's ask ourselves, how can we do things differently? How can I begin to put my attention to where it needs to go? Because you and I both know, I mean, by doing the work that we do, our attention to what we want in the positive is highly, highly valuable, because the way the brain is hooked up is, if you've got that goal in mind, your unconscious mind, your conscious mind will seek out more of the same. So if you're anxious, you're going to get more anxious. But if you start to focus on your desires, then you're going to really get your mind to look for more of it. So you're absolutely right. That anxiety and worry, we just got to reverse that and get our mind in sync and aligned with where we're heading.
Absolutely. So in your own life, Joseph, when you get anxious or you get emotions come up, because they come up for everyone, no matter how enlightened you are, right? What do you do personally? Like, how do you make that mindset shift in your own life?
Okay, so I think when it comes to things like worry and anxiety, we're generalizing a lot. Okay, we're taking this one thing and then expanding it so it either ruins our day or it overwhelms us. So one thing I try to do, like I said, we're all human, right? Or like you said, sorry, we're all human. We have to stop for a second. We have to get perspective. So we've got to stop. And there's a couple of things we can do from this. We can look through the eyes of other people at that situation, which creates dissociation. So if I'm going through this stress right now, how can I step outside of myself and look at the bigger picture? I mean, is this something that I really need to worry about right now? Am I really getting the total clarity on the situation? And that will cause me to, like I said, dissociation, looking through the eyes of someone else or the bigger picture, will actually take away the negative feelings. And also it will give you clarity in the situation. So what I try to do is, rather generalizing, distorting the whole situation, is just to stop for a moment and realize that the thoughts and feelings that I'm having are about this present event, which is tied to a certain association or expectation of what's happening in my life. So how can I change the association? How can I change what the real expectation is here? Because I know if I go on the inside or dissociate a little bit, I can actually get clarity. Now, the other simple things that we can all do is we can go outside, get some fresh air. We can turn on some awesome music. We can just kind of journal to get things out of our system. We can even meditate or go into hypnosis and trance work on things. But I think one of the big things for me is to realize that, okay, this situation right now, I'm generalizing and distorting it. So how can I get that perspective back? Maybe look through the eyes of someone else, or looking at the picture from a further away to be able to get the clarity that I need.
That's awesome. I love that. So I want to get like really crystal clear on this dissociation part, right? So what you're saying is like, let's say, you're getting anxious. Let's say, you just got the first edit back from your book from a professional editor, and there's like red marks everywhere, and you're just like freaking out. Like, I can't believe there's so many red marks, right? So what you could do in that situation is think about it from your editor's perspective, right? You can say, oh, well, my editor, they probably, they made all these red marks because they really want to help improve my book. They're really committed to making this book better for me and for my readers. And so that's a good thing. And so you can kind of get disconnected from your emotions about it as you see the world from other people's points of view.
You've got it. I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, we're reframing the situation, right? We're realizing, when we see, say, for example, we get all those red edits, we see the behavior of the edits. Okay. So we just see it subjectively. But if we even look through the eyes of the editor, like you just said, why are they doing that? They're doing it because they want to make sure that you are successful. So don't take it personally. It's hard to take it not personally, but realize this is the process of how we develop and create something special in the world. You have your voice, you have your words and your stories and your step-by-step processes. But those people in your life who are assisting you, like the editor, they're there to bring the best stuff out of you, to refine things. Now, instantly, having you said that to me, that makes me more at ease. I realize that that's part of the process, and the intention is to actually help me express myself more.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit more about your story of your first book. 'Cause I know you told me like you didn't even write the book. You actually had an audio book first. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So I dropped out of college, like I said in the beginning. I got a D and E in my GCSEs, which is in England. I'm going to guess is like more high school. Okay, so I didn't go to a great college, and I just really struggled with writing. And to this day, I do a little bit. I've improved a lot, but I still struggle a bit. So I was thinking, well, I've got a book in me, and I think we all have a book in ourselves. We all have something which we can express into this world to make a big impact. And I wanted to do that. I knew I had the skill sets and the mindsets, but I didn't have the skill set to be able to write the book. So my way of doing, because I record lots of hypnosis, and I've been doing that for many, many years, 15 years now. And a few years into that, I was like, I want to write a book, but I can't. So I decided just to speak the truth into my mic. I decided that if I can't do it this way, what am I good at? And since I've been speaking for so long, whether it be as a trainer, as a therapist, a coach, a hypnotist, all those things, why not use what I've already got? Because I know when I speak it, I'm going to guess it's going to come across very flowing in the book as well. And it's like a conversation. So I recorded it through my mic. I then paid someone, and this is way back. I don't think it's even called Elance anymore. Maybe it is, but there's way, way, way back. And I just paid someone to transcribe it. And then having got the transcription, I got my girlfriend at the time, because she did the English and things, to just tighten it up, my family members to help me out. And then I sent it out to Hay House. Now, interestingly enough, Hay House actually rejected it at first, which you'd think, oh my goodness, I did all this work, paid for a subscription, all these people helped me, and it just didn't work. But we can't just stop there, because like you said, you tried for a long time to get the book deals and things, but persistence is the key. Taking action, persistence, and that commitment to that. And I just kept on going for it. And then 4 months later, Hay House, who's a really big company, right, a publisher, like Wayne Dyer, the Deepak Chopras of this world, that all belong with Hay House, they came back to me 4 months later and said, actually, we want to be able to take on the book. So how I brought this book into the world wasn't through traditional typing or writing. It was actually from just speaking it. So everyone out there, if you don't think you're a great writer, try something different. Just speak it. I mean, there's so many things. If you do seminars, record the seminar and then transcribe it. If you do podcasts, record, or you've got the podcast there, get it transcribed and then put it into a book in some way. I mean, there's so many different options out there. We're not limited to just one way of doing it. And to me, that was really, really cool for me because it really opened up my possibilities of what I could do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. So, one of the things I've noticed in my business, Joseph, and I'm guessing it's similar for you, is that, I know I've got like 27 books. So I've written a lot of books. I love writing. But at the same time, I don't see myself as just a writer or just an author. And so in my business, I mean, I've done like tons of video marketing. I've done tons of podcasting. I've done tons of public speaking and speaking at seminars and workshops and selling online training products and all these different things of my business. Because for me, what's really important is the message, not the medium. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I'm committed to the publishing industry. Like I run a publishing company. I love it. I just something really special about books, but at the same time, I understand that really the medium is just one way to get a message out there. Right. Mm-hmm. And so for your business, what has been kind of the most impactful ways for you to get your message out to more people, to really make an impact with your work, with your ideas?
Yeah, my main two things, like the longest two things, have been through YouTube and through podcasting. And there's so many different cool ways you can do this now. I mean, my step-by-step process of how to multiply things is I get on a Facebook Live. I'm recording at the same time through my mic and from my webcam. I then do a very quick edit and put the video onto YouTube. And then I rip the audio of that video and then put it onto my podcast. And I found that speaking my personal truth, and I've done like over 300 videos now and over 350 podcasts, I think. I can't even remember. But I've just really found that as a medium, as just getting my words out, but utilizing everything I have with everything I've got. Okay, so Facebook Live, the YouTube, and then podcasting. And that's been one of my biggest things. And even from that, I've even got an app, which the podcast feed goes into, and then people can then actually explore the app as well, like hypnosis titles. So yeah, that's been my biggest medium really, because that's what I'm good at. I don't think I'm good at. I've been doing it for a long enough time, like speaking and audios and hypnosis and videos, although I was terrible in the beginning. So if you're experiencing right now video stage fright or podcast stage fright, seriously, I mean, maybe, I don't know if you do show notes and things, I'll do it, maybe show you my first video. It was horrible, like so self-conscious. And there's a guy who does hypnosis and who should be really good, right? But in that moment, I was terrible. And now through doing 300 odd videos, you just get better. Whatever, like you said, you've been doing speaking. I mean, how long have you been doing this for?
I've been podcasting for like 8 years, probably 7 years. I don't know. I mean, this show is only like 3 years old, but I've had other shows before this, and I had YouTube videos before that. And yeah, I mean, if you go back and look at my first YouTube video, I mean, it's terrible.
Yeah. And you're still not as good as you're going to be, right? I mean, you're going to get better.
Absolutely. That's the thing, is like every day you improve, every time you improve.
Yeah. So the key is to not really worry about where you are right now, because where you are right now, by making the decisions that you need to make, and by doing so, you're always going to get better. So where you are right now, doing whatever you're doing, you're perfect. You're not meant to be amazing, maybe. It'd be nice to, but we're not always meant to be amazing straight off. It takes time and persistence. Whether that be writing your first book's never going to be your best book. There's always going to be something else that you can explore. Your first podcast is never going to be your best podcast. So don't worry about it. I mean, if you think of other industries, whether it be a doctor, a surgeon, a mechanic, when they started, they weren't that good. I mean, even doctors, they didn't have everything and they still don't know everything, but they did it anyway. And through that time and that consistency, operating from where you're operating from, that passion from writing and then exploring it in different mediums, that's where you get mastery. It's just that consistency.
Absolutely. That's so true. So let's talk a little bit about hypnosis, because I think that's something that, most people, I would say, are probably pretty skeptical of. Like most people, the average American, I would say, is very skeptical of hypnosis. If I said, oh, that's nonsense, it doesn't work, right? So, but obviously it's had a big impact in your life, and it's actually had a big impact on my life as well. I actually had a couple, one guy in particular helped me with some hypnosis stuff, and helped me cure like some phobias and things, like gone. So tell us about like how does it work? What actually is it, and how does it work?
Okay, so the way I like to explain the situation is this. If we have an issue in our life, like a block in our belief systems, like, am I good enough, or I'm not worthy, or fear, phobia, anxiety, depression, procrastination, whatever it is, if you could consciously change, you would by now, right? You just kind of click the fingers and you'll just be changed. But if you can't let it go yourself, or you can't make that shift right now consciously, it must mean our unconscious mind is running the issue. So what is the unconscious mind? The unconscious mind is the regulator of the body. I mean, it just runs everything in terms of the heartbeat, the blood flow, the healing of the body. So if I cut myself, I don't have to consciously do anything. My body will heal by itself. From driving, when you first learned to drive, when you were consciously trying to drive, it was crazy hard. Very self-conscious, being aware of everything in the car, let alone everything on the outside of that car. But guess what? Over time, it becomes natural. And you don't even think about driving anymore. I mean, you just get in the car and you go, and before you know it, you're actually there, and you don't know how you got there because it's just automatic and on autopilot. Well, that's just the unconscious mind. It runs the beliefs. It runs our values, what we were taught when we were young. It runs our memories. So hypnosis, if you cannot consciously let things go, it must mean the unconscious mind is running it through beliefs, through past habits and behaviors, for our values and our memories and the emotions that we hold because of those. That way we can then go into a learning state. Like hypnosis is just like meditation. It's a learning state where we're starting to be connected with who we are. And by going into that learning state, we're able to re-educate and design how we want to be. And through the process of hypnosis, we can really get that emotional freedom in whatever we're doing. So if you go into hypnosis, you're going to be able to retrain how that part is presently working, upgrade it. I mean, think about this. I know I'm kind of a bit of a tangent right now, but if we have an issue in our life, say it's the belief of not being good enough. I mean, I'm sure many writers, I know I did in the beginning, like thinking, am I capable of being a writer? I mean, am I good enough? Is my message going to be good enough? We face these kind of blocks. What is the intention behind the belief of not being good enough? I mean, it's a protection mechanism, really, like so we don't fail, or to keep us safe, keep us in our comfort zone. So if we can get our unconscious mind to be safe in a different way by educating it, it no longer needs to run the old patterns or the old beliefs or emotions, because now it's being safer to a whole new level. So hypnosis is the process of getting in connection with who you are as a person, and then re-educating ourselves at an unconscious level to get the resources, the beliefs, the behaviors that we need to make the biggest impact on this world. Hopefully that kind of briefly explains how it works.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't make sense, right? Because I think we all understand, like, the unconscious mind, it controls so much of our lives, from our habits to, how we talk, healing our body, like 98% plus of everything that you do is totally unconscious, right?
Yeah.
So I think most of us get that, and especially when it comes to like emotions like fear and anxiety and stress and worry and stuff. I think most of us can understand, like, we're not really in control of that consciously, right? But I think what you're saying is that you can change or influence your subconscious to change the results that you're getting. So if you're constantly worried, or you have a phobia of water, or you just can't seem to write your book, you keep having writer's block, or you've got emotional issues with your parents, you can't talk to your parents, you can't have a conversation with them, right? There's obviously some kind of unconscious issue there. So how does hypnosis actually help you change that, though? It's like, can you kind of walk us through the process that you would go through with a client, and how that actually makes that change happen?
Yeah, sure. So just to jump on that as well, we are being influenced every single day, okay, by the media, by advertising, by society's expectations, by our family. And the only way we can have an issue is having been influenced to have the issue in some way. So let's say, for example, as a 5-year-old, I see a dog, I go up to it and it gets a bit boisterous. And then I start think at an unconscious level, that dog is scary. And therefore every other dog I see is potential danger. So I'm going to start to have this neurological association to dogs, and we can change dogs to anything, whether it be the belief in not being good enough or when our parents said something to us. We get conditioned and influenced in that way. All we're doing here is rather allowing the past to continue to influence us, or the present people in our life or society to be influenced by ourselves or by others, we instead influence our own mind. So we're actually doing what naturally occurs anyway, but we're doing it by design. We're doing it by choice. So for example, I do lots of custom hypnosis for people, like for entrepreneurs who are, of course, like authors and everything like that. And what I literally do is I send them out a questionnaire. They write out their Christmas list of all the things they want to achieve. They want to let go of this limiting belief. They want to let go of this emotion. And then they want to achieve this type of goal, this side of belief system, or these type of confidence, resources and everything. And then I start to design like a custom hypnosis track for them with their name included. And all they have to do is listen to it as they go to sleep. Okay, so you go to sleep listening, which puts you to sleep because there's a nice relaxing tempo to it. And then while you're going to sleep, your unconscious mind is being educated with learnings, and it's being imprinted with your exact desires. So we're really upgrading the system. If you consider like the real how it works or why it works, your body and your mind will continue to keep on doing what it's always done because it thinks what it's doing is good. Like that phobia situation, the body thinks it's protecting you, so it's going to do this in an overwhelming way to protect you from dogs, for example. Until we give it an alternative example or an alternative strategy, it will keep on doing what it's always done. So what we have to do through hypnosis, where you see some one-to-one or a custom hypnosis track or anything like that, we have to upgrade the system. We're giving it a new strategy. Like you said earlier on this podcast, that you were doing something your way in the beginning and it wasn't quite working. Then you learned new strategies and you now teach those amazing strategies because they work. And because they work, you're going to adapt them. Hypnosis does the exact same thing. We're giving the system a new set of strategies which will actually keep you safer in this world, whilst also achieving emotional freedom and crushing your goals or getting the optimized mind, the motivation, the clarity, the drive, all those things. So we're really just educating the mind because it will jump at the chance to be safer. Because how safe is having a phobia? How safe is being depressed? How safe in reality is being anxious, not believing you're good enough? It's not. But it's the best thing it can do right now based on the resources you had in that moment when it started to happen. All we're doing is we're saying, rather this, why not do this? Because this is actually safer and it's actually going to give me more emotional freedom. If you do that, your unconscious mind is programmed to be safe and to replicate. That's what it's really here to do. So if we're giving it a new opportunity, it will go ahead and do that. It will replace and upgrade the system. It will get that strategy and it will just take it on because that's what it's here for.
That's awesome. It sounds exciting. I feel like I want to jump in. Let's do it right now.
Yeah, well, we can if you want.
Yeah, well, we don't have much time left. So,
yeah,
I wonder, for people listening, what are kind of the most common issues that you deal with your clients? What is the kind of the biggest problems that people have?
Okay, so many people have lots of issues on the surface. They have symptoms. Okay, so they will have maybe the symptom of, a lot of people I see have anxiety. They have doubts. They have low confidence or like self-consciousness, usually like esteem issues. I think that is one of the biggest things we face today is our self-esteem and our own value in this world. But beyond all those symptoms, or I should say like behind all those symptoms, there's usually a belief system which is holding all those symptoms up. So the anxiety, the low confidence, all those things, which usually ties into that belief system. And that, to me, I'd usually find working with people is like the belief in not being good enough, the fear of success, the fear of failure. And if we let go of the fear of failure, the fear of not being good enough, the fear of not being worthy, the belief systems around those, then the symptoms cannot exist. Because if you believe you're good enough, you can't get anxious. If you believe you're worthy, you have confidence. If you believe that you can't fail, if you do fail, it's just a learning experience, but there's no such thing as failure, just learning. If you have that belief system that you just know everything's going to be okay, you won't fear failure. So I find that if you get to that core of that limiting belief, which can be one of those things, fear of success, fear of failure, not being good enough, not being worthy, those type of things, if you let go of those, you will make a huge impact. Because say, for example, with your tools that you're giving, it's always important to be able to improve yourself though, right? I mean, you invest in yourself all the time, I'm going to guess. I'm sure you go to trainings and seminars, you buy audio programs, you're reading books, you're continually investing in yourself. And when we begin to invest in ourselves in the mind, you start to see the most phenomenal changes in your life that you can imagine. I mean, things just transform and it feels easy. Like when you're writing and you're in your flow state, you just flow. You just kind of do what you got to do and you're in that peak state. Hypnosis gives us the ability to remove the rubbish, all the things we don't need, so we can just be congruent in who we are in this world, which makes the biggest impact, which means you can write that book, you can create that business to the place where you want to be because you know it's going to impact millions around the world. And that to me is just magical. That makes me just like, I want to go ahead and do this. I mean, that's why I do what I do, because I just love doing it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you made so many great points there. But I think one thing I want to point out is that like it almost sounds like magical, right? Like, okay, you can release this block or release this belief and all of a sudden your whole life changes, right? But I mean, if you actually look at, like, you can look at examples in your own life. So for like my own life, I was very shy like you, right? Like I was so afraid of public speaking. I couldn't possibly do it. Like I was just so shy to stand up in front of a room, and I would like shake and I would stutter, and it was terrible, right? And now, like, I love it. Like I have so much fun, right? And I always, whenever I speak at seminars and events, I usually get like one person at least come up and say, hey, I'm so impressed by you. You're such a good speaker. I could never do something like that, right? Mm-hmm. It's too scary. Like that's essentially what they're saying, right? And I used to feel that same way, but it's no more difficult to be a confident public speaker than it is to be a terrified public speaker. It takes no more effort on my part. It takes no more thought, right? It's the exact same conscious process I go through to give a presentation. It's just that the unconscious mind has now changed, and it's not like getting in my way and getting me stuck and having all these negative emotions come up around it.
Yeah, I mean, you probably put more effort into being that fearful person, right? I mean, it's far more exhausting.
Yeah, you certainly put more mental energy into it, and exactly, you're way more exhausted afterwards.
Yeah, and it feels, once you make that change, it feels just natural. You're being you, which takes out the hard work. And despite the results seeming magical, this is just training. I mean, if you go to the gym once or twice, you're not going to get the best results. But if you do it for a period of time, you're going to get great results. So yeah, it takes time and consistency at times. But I really know that if you start to educate your brain, the thing which is doing what it's been doing, you will start to see changes. And as you said, there's no more effort between the two. The distinction is one strategy like this, one strategy like this. And we can get our unconscious mind to develop a new strategy. Just like when you learned to walk. There was a time you couldn't walk, and then there was a time when you could walk. And that's because you trained up your mind and body to be able to do that. And I think for someone seeing, like, not being able to walk as a baby to then suddenly do it, that's magical. I mean, that seems like a miracle probably to that baby, because they were falling over at first and then they suddenly got it, or like riding a bike for the first time. They're like, yes, I got this. It seems magical. And it is magical. It's a beautiful thing to experience, but it's that magic and that, say, for example, the words like that miracle, that transformation, it's just a step-by-step process. That's all it is. It's a strategy. And once we learn it, we start to educate our system, we make changes. So it seems magical, but in reality, it's just a step-by-step system.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Well, where can people learn more about these strategies from you, Joseph?
So the main place to really go is secretmindupgrade.com. that's probably the best place to go to be able to get access to some of my, like my custom hypnosis tracks and everything. I usually work with entrepreneurs in doing this. I've worked with a lot of those types of people to really excel in business, but also in their health, their relationships and career as a byproduct. So secretmindupgrade.com is probably the best place to find me.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Joseph. It's been a pleasure.
I just want to give you like an awesome shout out as well, because you are epic in what you do and you're an example as well. I mean, I think that when people, sometimes you can compare yourself to others because obviously you're doing so great and so amazing. And it's important to be gentle on ourselves as well. But on the same hand, I just want to say thank you for you, because you're creating something really, really special right now. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.